Is it time to panic about recruiting at Michigan Wolverines football? Welcome to the Michigan Voice of College Football channel. The transfer portal is closed, and I'm sure you've heard about Michigan's gains and losses post spring game. But this one is a big deal because it doesn't make sense. And when something doesn't make sense, you start to worry. Is it nothing or is it a harbinger of doom? My name is Cliff. With me, as always, is Mac. Marquis Davis was considered a shoe-in for Michigan. He had 3 visits there, 3 official visits, and now he's off to Kentucky. And I have questions. Is this because Michigan is failing at NIL? Were Ohio State fans right and Tony Alford can't recruit? When do we panic?
Panicking is never the answer. Absolutely never the answer. I don't care what situation you're in. Do not panic. And Ohio State fans are also never correct, although they may have had a point here. But in any case, no, it's not time to panic. Tony Alford is on notice, let's say. He's on notice, but we're not calling him a fraud just yet. But, this one kind of sucked. Michigan's NIL may be to blame, but I'm not going to say it's because they're doing NIL incorrectly. I like the way Michigan is doing NIL. They're not doing pay to play. And that's the correct way to go about this. You bring in the players and you tell them you have to earn your NIL, and if you don't like that, you can go somewhere else. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the top talent is going somewhere else. Steve Dace made the point. Why would a uh, elite running back recruit like Marquise Davis here decide to go to a mid-level SEC team? I don't even think you can really say mid-level. I mean, in football, I think they're bottom of the barrel there with Vanderbilt. Um, all I can figure at this point is that NIL had something to do with it. And it's not because Michigan doesn't have the money. It's not because the opportunities aren't at Michigan. It's because Kentucky's willing to show them the money up front. They're willing to show a blank check at the front door rather than telling Marquis Davis, you need to get in here, you need to prove yourself before you can have these deals. Michigan is doing NIL the right way, and that's going to cause some recruits to not end up at Michigan. But I think that if Michigan fans start to panic, then they're just always going to be in a state of panic when it comes to recruiting season, because I don't think that Michigan is ever going to pull in, let's say, a top 5 class simply because of the way that they're doing NIL. You thought that they already had issues with recruiting. Well, it might not get any better, and that's okay. It doesn't have to get better because Michigan is relying on development. They're a development first program. We've talked about this multiple times, that Michigan likes to get the right players in, the culture fit players in. They're not going to pay for talent to come in and prima donna themselves around and just for them to end up transferring to another school because that other school offered them even more money. I mean, we're not going to play that game at Michigan. We're going to build a good, stable culture. If that means that Michigan loses a game or two every single year because they don't have the talent to keep up with everybody else, that's just going to have to be how it is. But the thing is that Michigan didn't have the talent that everybody else had last year, and they won the national championship. They did it with a bunch of 3s and 4 stars, with a little bit of a salt and peppering of 5 stars in there. Not a ton of them, but they were there. So no, it's not time to panic. Michigan's fine. This particular one stings, but you're going to need to get used to this as a Michigan fan because Michigan's doing NIL the correct way, and this is going to end up being the consequence. Sometimes they're going to miss out on high level recruits.
And you think it's just purely NIL? Because so from what I'm seeing in some of these articles, that this was, over at Wolverines Wire, they're using words like this was unforeseen. That all of the predictions had Marquis Davis going to Michigan. You've got Chris Peterson over at Blue by 90 saying this was a gut punch. And then the article over at MLive, even I believe it's quoting Marquis Davis here. He was saying he had a good relationship with Tony Alford. So what do you think happened? Do you think it really was just money? And how does Kentucky have more money than Michigan?
I don't know how the money shakes out school to school. It depends on what their NIL collectives are able to get. It depends on boosters. It depends on whatever opportunities Kentucky is able to get their players. I don't know how that's the case. It's kind of mind boggling that Kentucky is able to do that. It feels like NIL is the reason they got DJ Waller to transfer there from Michigan. That was a Michigan transfer, or he was a linebacker at Michigan who transferred to Kentucky. And it feels like NIL is the reason why. I don't know how Kentucky is able to put up the kind of money to steal high level recruits from the defending national champions.
Mhm.
What I do know, though, is that because of everything that you just said, the fact that this doesn't make sense, the fact that Tony Alford has a good relationship with the kid, the fact that the kid even said on an interview with Sam Webb that NIL made up only 25% of his consideration for where he was going, that it makes no sense, and therefore that's why I think that's the case. To be completely honest, I don't blame him, because if any of us were in the position where we had our pick of the litter and um, a certain part of that, or a certain school then said, well, you can go wherever you want, but we're going to give you $10 million to come here. I'm just pulling that number out of my butt. um, then I would completely understand why he would choose that. Even if he first said money doesn't mean anything to me in this recruitment, as soon as Kentucky shows him the money, you start to kind of think, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's a lot of money. I can get it right now. This might be life changing. He did mention with Sam Webb that he was looking for somebody who really understood where he was coming from with his upbringing, somebody that he could really relate to. And maybe that kind of implies that he came from not the best upbringing, not the best situation. I don't know. Not saying anything about his family or anything like that. It just mean some of the money that these recruits are getting coming into college, it's life-changing money. It'd be life-changing money for anybody. So if you're in that type of situation, even if you say the money doesn't mean a lot to you, when they show it to you and you realize exactly how much you're getting and what you can do with that, you might have a
Mhm.
change of heart immediately.
Okay, I threw a bunch of questions at you there, sort of all at once. But what about that last one there, Chris Peterson calling this a gut punch to Michigan? Do you think that's true, or is this just more, like you said, this is a three-star third stringer that will be not easily replaced, but replaceable?
No, he was a 4 star. He was a good
Four-star.
good recruit. He was definitely someone that Michigan wanted. Yeah, it's a gut punch, but that's why I'm saying that you're going to need to get used to it. Michigan is going to lose out, as they always have, on really good talent. And the reason before was because we were questionable in terms of how we were recruiting. Recruiting under Harbaugh was kind of an enigma. I'm really not sure what they were doing. They were pulling in really developable players. But we would always look at the 5 stars that we weren't getting, that we were losing out onto other teams, and being like, why aren't we able to pull in 5 star talent? I don't know. It could have had anything to do with the scheme Harbaugh was running, whatever. In today's game, with Sharon Moore being the head coach, I think the reason that we're going to miss out on those players now is because we're not paying them up front, and these other schools are. And that just might be how it is.
All right. Well, that's what we think. What do you think? Leave a note in the comments. Let us know how you feel about it. If you've enjoyed this show, don't forget to check out all of the channels on the Voice of College Football. It's a network of 24 channels now, I believe. Also, you can catch Mac and I on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show right here on YouTube. Monday nights at 8 o'clock, we do an hour and a half live stream. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan football at the voice of college football.